John's Alabama Single Malt Whiskey. This is named after John Emerald Sharp. So the brand used John Emerald. That's Emerald's his middle name. So it's the Sharps running this distillery. It was Jimmy and John, right? A father and son, and their grandfather, the father's father, was John Emerald, who this is their flagship whiskey or product, okay?
Yeah.
And it's their single malt. American style, American single malt style, made with 100% malted barley and smoked with peach and pecan wood. So...
I do like some pecans.
Right, you do. Now, so doing research on this, I'll just give you the background of the traditional single malt processes. So you're going to basically soak it. You're going to soak this malt, this barley, right? You're going to get it you're going to hit the grain with a certain hydrogenation level, right? It's going to hit a water level.
Yep.
And then it's going to go and be basically moved around as it germinates. Okay. Right. And then it's going to go another place and it's going to get basically a kiln below it and basically smoked and dried. So I don't know where they're having this. I don't know where they're smoking this. I couldn't find that out. Okay. So, but they're doing a certain amount of the grain is being smoked with peach and pecan wood.
Okay.
And you're going to sense that. You can taste it. It's pretty cool. So what happened was...
Ooh.
Yeah? What do you think? Because you're not into these single malts.
No. And, a lot of people are doing the single malts now.
Smell
and you get the peach. Mm-hmm. You can really smell the peach. And
the nose is amazing.
Yeah, because Freddie over at Jim Beam, he just released a single malt.
It's getting hot.
That we haven't tried yet.
No.
And, it was released shortly after our last visit. So if I like this, it's going to be interesting to dive into the single malt whiskey world.
I think Jack Daniels did a single malt, and you can't get it other than only in the airports.
Wow. The peach is really strong on the nose, but it's a smooth... It doesn't burn.
No.
And it doesn't burn your nose, and it's not really... all I smell is peaches, so...
You're fixated on your stone fruits, huh?
Mm-hmm. When they say peach and pecan, they're not lying.
What do you think? Because now this is essentially a Scotch process, but it's barreled in a semi-bourbon process.
Right.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Scots, they have really cold, dreary, rainy...
They need a decade to reach the amount that we can do in 4 years.
Yeah. And remember when we first started talking about the whole bourbon and whiskey world, you were, very, on the side of Scotch because of the taste. And I've always been kind of on the standoffish side of Scotch because of the peaty and...
It depends on the region. There's 5 regions, and one can be super peaty.
Yeah.
You probably got hit in your first experience, just like we've talked about how my first experience was probably with a rye that I wasn't meant to have yet.
Right.
And it turned me off for a long time.
Yeah.
You might have had a super peated region, and it turned you off. But these guys, here's a little difference of what's going on here, though. When they go through this process, as I don't know where it's being dry kilned and how they're getting who's doing the smoking part. Mm-hmm. But they are working with malted barley, okay?
Yeah.
And I've seen their setup, and what they do is they're more about quality than quantity. So they are in an old building in I hope I don't screw this up as I try to figure out the pronunciation. Opelika.
You probably messed.
Opelika. I probably messed up, but
Yeah, probably.
Opelika, Alabama.
Okay.
So Opelika, Alabama, it had a building that they took over, and that's where they're doing their operation out of.
Yeah.
And they are doing something that I think a couple episodes ago I hinted that I was going to tell you about an operation that was doing a climate-controlled seasonal simulation that we're not used to. Most people just let their barrels happen with the seasons.
Yeah.
What they're doing is they are going through the processes, right? They're barreling in smaller barrels, a lot smaller. And they are putting these little smaller barrels in these climate-controlled situations where they can make them sweat quicker, and they can make them cool quicker, and they can just make them go back and forth in the wood. And their belief is have that juice.
They can accelerate it.
But have that juice have more of a basically a surface to suck flavors out of quicker. So you have less fluid fighting for less surface.
So in their climate controlled, they turn the heat on.
Yes.
And then they turn they turn the AC
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Very thoughtful.
Back and forth, back and forth. And they have proof of it functionality because they can see the barrels sweating, and they can smell the angel share coming out, and it's back and forth. And so I don't know. I didn't see an age statement on this because you have a single malt. I think a single malt I believe the rule of thumb of single malt. Now there's not a standardization yet on American single malt, but I believe you're supposed to go 3 years. It might have been 2.
Okay.
Just like a bourbon. So this single malt world is still in infantile stages. They don't have locked down rules of you're going to call something a bourbon. This is what you got to follow. Now they're working on that. There's associations and whatnot being created, and they do want a standardization. Some people want this single malt world to have standardized with a pot still. These guys are not using a pot still. They're using like a column, a little mini column.
Okay.
But they're all about their quantities. So they must be cutting off all the heads and the tails that they don't like at all. And they are literally just putting the best they can imagine in these little mini barrels. And this is what you get. So what happens with these guys, they put this on the market and it sells out fast. They sell out this. This is their guy. But they are like another distillery that we talked about them recently. They've had to do some rums, and I don't know if they had to. I should take that back. But they're doing rums, they're doing gins, they're doing things that probably don't take as long to sit around.
Right. That keeps the money flowing.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And they have a small tasting room. You can go to their location, and you can have a small tasting room, make cocktails and stuff like that.
You get this while you're in Alabama?
Yeah. So I got this at ABC. And so ABC...
Which is different than our ABC.
Correct, because ABC there stands for their Alcohol Controlling Bureau. And they not only have a monopoly over alcohol and what's being created in the state, they also have their stores. And they are the go-to, and that's where you get MSRP. So yeah, so I got this at an ABC, Alabama Beverage Control, whatever it stands for. And I've been sitting on this. I wanted to do a single malt eventually. And it ends up being like this is the go-to Alabama single malt, period.
I would think, like, if I was slow roasting a pork and I wanted something different, or if I was enjoying some dessert, and just because it has the peaches and the pecan.
This is a dessert, yeah.
You know, this would fall into the dessert drink rather than your brandy or something else. But
right.
I feel if you were doing like a southern roasted pork or a dessert, this would be something that you could easily pick up and try it and enjoy it, especially with the pecan pie.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, essentially, the Scots can't get away with this. So you have a Scotch essentially being kiln dried with this pecan and peach wood that they can't do. They're doing it with peat.
Right.
And how much peat they use is their choice, right? There's a volume of, there's a mathematical aspect of how much is embedded into those grains when they do that peating aspect. But these guys, they have more freedom, right? And so you can sit here and smoke and embed this grain that is about to go into the grinder and turn into this mash. And, you got this thing right at its baby steps to add some flavor to it. And that's what you're doing. And we get that freedom over here right now with these American single malts. So you have a Scotch that got some natural flavor added to it that you normally couldn't have. That's the cool thing.
Well, you're definitely the expert on the Scotch because...
Well, I'm learning something every day myself, but I've spent more time in the mouth, but I'm actually trying to learn it. The process is better. And it's funny because as I'm learning the process of single malt, I'm learning more process of the Scotch at the same time. Now, this has won a 2020 gold medal in Vegas. It's won a 2019 silver in San Francisco. It's won a 2016 in Southern Living Food Awards and a 2015 bronze in New York. The appearance is, as we know, rich amber. Okay. Now, the nose... dried cherries, vanilla, and leather. So if I would not have told you that it was smoked with that wood, would you have picked up cherries? I'm not sure if I would.
No.
I don't know if I would.
The cherries, I mean,
I'm trying.
You could say leather just because of what it is, but when you said cherries, I'm like,
yeah, it's on
more peaches.
It's a little stone fruit. It's a little tiny stone fruit.
Yeah, it's more of peaches to me.
Right.
And then you definitely get...
You get the vanilla?
I mean, you
pick up
could,
some vanilla on the nose?
You could say cherries.
You could.
My right nose is picking up something different than my left nose. But you could say cherries, but
Still
at the same time, if you get a really good Georgia or Alabama peach, some people say Georgia, Georgia's the peach state, but actually Alabama produces more peaches than Georgia.
Oh, is that right?
And if you could say cherries, but
if you were not aware of,
it really, to me, throws more of the peach.
Yeah, it connects.
Yeah, and then on the back, I'm saying,
on the back, you should be picking up the pecan, smoke, and cinnamon. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely the pecan. That way, that's why I said if you had a slow roasted or smoked pork roast, this would go delicious with it. Or if you had a peach cobbler or...
Oh, my God.
I'm getting hungry now.
This is only 86.
Okay.
86 proof.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't finish hot.
No,
it's
absolutely
enjoyable.
Not. Absolutely not.
But it's a good, something that would pair with it for dinner or dessert.
Right.
Right.
Now, it's tough because it's only distributed throughout Alabama, clearly, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, a little Florida. I didn't see on the map this, but they're saying New York, California, Colorado, Illinois. So there's more of y'all that can get this than some of the things we show that come from Alabama, from the Sharp family.
Yeah, good for them because
from what I hear from the other guys from Alabama, it's tough for Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia's a toughie, and with this map being pinned a lot in Georgia, that's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good article if anybody wanted to look it up. It tells the whole their processes and the family history. So I watched one thing On our bottle, we have a horse. They do these animals. So there's their
column still.
There's the column, yeah, and it's a little guy. Yeah, they're making it look big there, but
yeah, it's all about the angle.
yeah, it's all about the angle. It's all so. That is their main one. They have that one, and they have an experimental one too.
Okay.
Yeah, for obviously experimental. So this is not the barrels for what we're drinking. That's going to be their rum. They have a spiced rum. I believe they have their gins in there and stuff like that. But these guys, they've made quite the successful story there in Alabama, and the locals love it.
These guys aren't producing bourbon; they're producing whiskeys, gins.
I'll show you this now. There is that's another news story, but I'll show you some here. So you have their single malt. You got a double oak bourbon. It doesn't say, Kentucky straight or it doesn't say straight. So I don't know what's going on with that. When it doesn't have straight on there, I'm a little, questionable. But we have a double oaked bourbon. I could bring maybe that back on the next trip if you want.
Yeah.
You have a double wood rye.
Okay. Bring that back too.
Okay. And then we have the rums. And if you're noticing what the story was is these names here.
Mm-hmm. Family names.
Yes. All family names. And then father and son decided what family name had the best character to this animal.
Okay.
So this was one of the older gentlemen in the family, and he was just kind of a tough dude, and they gave him that rooster. So they also thought ahead, as in, if you can't remember what you bought when you're at the store, you can tell your friend, man, I got this silver rum and there's a rooster on it. Oh, let's go find that. So it's very smart. They have a vodka. Who doesn't? I mean, they're all in the gin, and they hand pick their junipers. It's kind of, I do actually want to bring this gin back for myself.
Yeah,
So,
you got to make me a cocktail.
yeah,
Because
you need to try some gin.
I'm not a flavored gin vodka type of person, and
This might be a good gin.
Gin is what, just flavored vodka?
No. It's an herbal, spirit. It's an herbal spirit.
Ooh, we'll go back up.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
What is
before.
that?
We got
Blue
we're playing with agave too.
Weber agave with an armadillo.
I didn't realize they were playing with agave. Oh. Yeah, and this
fig.
Yeah, so
Whoa.
Yeah, they played with this fig. This is a limited fig, and they made a liqueur out of it.
I love figs.
Yeah?
So
I'll look for it.
yeah.
We might be bringing a bunch of John Emerald stuff back, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, figs are, because they're such a delicate fruit.
Correct.
They're hard to grow, and if you get good figs,
I love figs.
Yeah.
So there's I like their line. I mean, it's not we had to do a bunch of vodka to survive situation. You have stuff that you put your neck out on the line
That's
for.
a diverse line.
Yeah, and they're John's Alabama. This was the flagship for what we're drinking is the flagship to what they dreamed of doing.
Yep.
100% malted barley and smoked with peach and pecan wood. Sweet and smooth.
Yeah. No, it's coming before the show started, it's like, we really want to do a single malt, and you're like, well, and I've never been one for malted, but like you said, the the malting process is basically just heating the grains until a certain point, and
yeah. So it starts with the water, let them soak, and then you're gonna go, and then you're gonna put them out on another floor, and you're gonna rotate them, because once they're hit with that certain much of saturation, they're gonna start to germinate, and when they germinate, the processes create heat. So they have to constantly move those grains on a regular basis so they don't get too hot on the bottom. Just like tobacco when you're making a
it's
cigar.
energy.
Yep. And then it leaves that process. It goes to another floor that's where you smoke it with a kiln below with this wood we're talking about. And now after that, it's ground and it's put in, and that's where you make your mash, right? And that's where you're going to play with the hot water that we talked about earlier. You're going to have hot water a couple times. They're going to drain that hot water. If that sweet water is going to go to another place, holding tank. Then you're eventually going to use that sweet water, and that's where you're throwing your yeast in, and that's where you start this process. So when we first were discussing malted single malts, you were talking about boiling. I don't know if there's a whole lot of boiling. I know the water's getting hot. Don't get me wrong.
To a certain
it's getting hot.
Yeah.
It's to get the sugars out of the grains.
It just the nose holds on this. It's the same every time you smell it,
Isn't it?
And
dude, this has been open. I brought this back in what? This has been open a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So it tastes the same now as it tasted then. Really does.
No, so you found it, you opened it, and you're like, this is something good.
It
and
is.
you just sealed it back up, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, let's do it on the show.
Yes.
And
I want you to
I
try
give
this.
it to you. I'm gonna have to try a couple more single malts. Like I said, Freddie No is diving his hand into the future.
Yeah, buddy.
Of the beam, so I'm gonna have to get one of those now and bring it back. And
it's going to be tough. I think this single malt stuff is going to be the newest up and coming. I hope it's never a fad. It can't be a fad because it's been around Scotch too long, and Scott's not a fad. So
yeah,
but I hope I hope this country grasps and expands on doing the single malt stuff, because once this standard is set, though, some of the creativity might evaporate. Because like I told you earlier, this standardization may end up locking these guys down into a specific still.
Yeah,
Like the
particular type and what goes in it. And
well, they're pushing for pot stills, and there's a couple people that are like, "Hey, we're doing modified columns," and I don't know how much flexibility they're going to get. So get it in while you can, because the standardization happens, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Very nice.
Man,
all this talk about food. Really, yeah.
Your desserts.
I'm about to go get something.
Absolutely. Cheers, bro.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me experience this, because it definitely, opened up a realm and a palette of things that,
Good. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. Not I'm going to go try every single malt.
Yeah. I don't either. Some of them are not wonderful. The American single malt world is still fixing what their mistakes are and where people like it. They don't know the market completely, which way it's going to go. So it's pretty cool, man. Bourbon, you've been around it, but this is a new realm for you to kind of, hey, I was in the beginning of that.
Yeah, because it's in its infancy stage.
Yes. Yeah. There's no standardization, so this is going to be curious. I'm curious to see how this goes. But cheers. Let's go have some food then, huh?
Yeah, let's go do it.
Awesome, bro.
Thanks.